Hello friends. So today's video, as the title says, is a list of some of the most anticipated fantasy releases. This is not just going to be about books, but it's also going to include shows and video games, as there are a lot of other things in fantasy that I'm really excited about. Some of these things have release dates. Some of these things have at least maybe not a specific release date, but a time frame that is within sight. And then some of these we've kind of all lost hope for them coming out ever. And so it's just going to be kind of a chat of, I wish I had these books right now. Just because it's really obvious, I feel like I have to mention A Song of Ice and Fire and Name of the Wind, because I know so many of you have been waiting so long for more books from those authors. I am actually very curious if you think we're ever going to get those. I don't know. I don't think, with A Song of Ice and Fire, I don't think it's ever going to happen. But you know what? I enjoyed Elden Ring, so I guess there's that. Completely switching gears, getting to an author who consistently gets books out, but just has so many ongoing series and therefore has so many sequels that we're all anticipating. We have Brandon Sanderson. These 3 series that I just held up aren't even, of course, all of the ones that Sanderson has. We also, a lot of us are waiting on the last book in Mistborn Era 2. I will say I am pretty stereotypical with my feelings toward Mistborn in that I do like Mistborn Era 1 significantly more than Era 2, but I am very curious about that 4th installment, because for those of us who have read a lot of his Cosmere works, I just have a feeling we're gonna see a lot more tie-ins with this one. If you've read Rhythm of War, this is the first time that, even though Sanderson has always said you don't have to read the other books in the Cosmere to enjoy any one given series, Rhythm of War, it was kind of like, you might want to read some of the other ones because there's so many tie-ins. And with this next Mistborn book, I think we're going to see more of that, and I am very excited because I do love the Cosmere, and I like seeing all of those Easter eggs. I like more than just the Hoid spottings. I like when you start to actually see characters from other series popping up. So I am excited for that one, and also just, of course, it's the conclusion to Second Era. So I'm curious to see how everything wraps up. But I am one of those people that has been waiting for so long for the sequel, and every time that Sanderson puts out his State of Sanderson at the end of each year, I'm always like, oh, is there progress on Rhythmatist? And then it's always like, sorry, Rhythmatist fans. And I'm like, dang it. Okay, Warbreaker, I know a lot of us are like, if you get around to a sequel, we will take it. But it's okay if it stays a standalone. This one, it's not okay. I need the second book. It ends on such a cliffhanger. And if you haven't checked out Rhythmatist, it is not part of the Cosmere. It is actually, I think, technically considered middle grade, although to me it feels just as, I would say it's about equal in maturity level to his Skyward series, which is pretty set in young adult. So regardless, I really enjoyed this one. I think the magic is so cool. I really like our characters in this, and the ending is such a cliffhanger. And Sanderson, I would really like the next one, please. I mentioned Skyward a second ago, so I know a lot of us are ready for that last book in this series, and I'm especially excited because Skyward has been my favorite thus far, and based off of where the series has gone, I do think that the 4th book is going to sort of be a return to a lot of the things I liked about this first one. And then, of course, the stakes are going to be even higher, and I think all the world building that Sanderson has done in this series, we're going to see all of the payoff of that in that 4th book. But we're going to see it alongside a lot of the other characters, because our main character, Spensa, has been doing her own thing for a while. So I am really excited for the conclusion to this, because I love the first book, and then the sequels, I've been like, oh, these are fun, but they haven't captured my heart the way this first one has. So excited for this one. And then Stormlight 5. I know it's probably not going to come out until next year, but I would like it now. If you're new to the channel and don't know, I am very obsessed with this series. I mean, I'm obsessed with the Cosmere in general, but I have done character analysis where I've drawn characters and then talked about them, and I've also composed music for various characters in the Cosmere, but a couple for characters in the series specifically, and then performed my compositions on my violin. And I'm scared. There's a part of me that's really excited and very hyped and cannot wait for the 5th book, because it is going to be the conclusion to Stormlight. I guess I'm going to call it Stormlight Era 1 to mimic what we talk about with Mistborn. I'm excited, but I'm frightened. I'm so scared about what he's gonna do to our characters. And I mean, there's a part of me that wants to get that book, but then there's also a part of me that's like, but you know what? I don't mind where some of our characters are right now, and maybe they should stay there because, you know, there's a chance that everything won't work out for them. Enough being all sappy and emotional over Sanderson books. I'm going to switch now to a show, and I don't know when we're going to get a next season of the show, but I need it, and that would be season 2 of Arcane. So I know that there was a tweet that said, I think that the first season took 6 years to make, but fans would not have to wait 6 years for a season 2, but season 2 would not be coming super fast. And I'm okay with that because that show, I know it swept people away. I know everybody was talking about it. I know it has absurdly high ratings everywhere, but it's so incredibly deserved. I love that show so much. I love so many of the characters. Just that show is basically perfection. I love the colors, I love the music, I love the characters, I love their arcs, I love the action scenes. I love basically everything about that show. And so I'm so ready for season 2. I'm completely fine with them taking as much time as they need because it's a masterpiece. And in the meantime, basically, I feel like this is me saying, hey, if you haven't watched it, go watch Arcane. On the topic of TV shows, very different from Arcane, but another one that I'm very excited for, and the 4th season is coming out soon, much sooner than I expected. It was just announced recently, and that would be the 4th season in What We Do in the Shadows. If you've never watched the show, it's hilarious. It's a mockumentary about some vampires living in modern day, and they're completely clueless and don't know how to manage anything or do anything for themselves. So their human familiar has to basically take care of them. And it is so funny. Very stupid humor and also very clever humor combined with the mockumentary style. Plus the actors are all fantastic. It's one of the funniest shows. It's, for me, Parks and Rec and What We Do in the Shadows, I'm obviously a fan of mockumentaries, but those 2 TV shows are probably my 2 favorites. They're fantastic. I love them. My 2 favorite non-animated shows, I should say. But if you haven't watched the show and you are looking for a great, funny, dark humor, very adult humor, stupid but witty and clever at the same time humor, watch the show. It's great. I've gotten some of my friends to watch it recently, and it makes me so happy. Switching to video games here for a sec, I know that we are not going to be seeing either of these games for quite some time, but I am very excited for the 4th Witcher game. I know it kind of had mixed reactions from people when they announced it, and I know we have basically no knowledge of it currently, but I'm still very excited. I did a whole video where I'm kind of reading off a lot of your reactions to it, so I'll have that link down below. Not as well known, Wolf Among Us is such a fun game. It's a Telltale game, so you really don't have to be good at video games, but it's actually based off of the comic series Fables, and it follows fairy tale people who have had to leave their homeland and are glamored to look like humans and are living in New York City. Some of them already look like humans, some of them do not. So Bigby is the sheriff, and Snow from Snow White, she is somebody who works alongside Bigby, and Wolf Among Us, the video game, sort of is a prequel to the comics, and it's a murder mystery. And I absolutely love that game, and it was announced forever ago that they were going to make a sequel, and there's been some hiccups with Telltale, and so I think we're still going to get Wolf Among Us 2. It just might be a while, but I'm very ready. I love Bigby. I love Bigby so much. And also had to mention Shadow and Bone because I did really enjoy the adaptation on Netflix, and season 2 I'm so excited for. I don't quite know how they're going to go about it because if you are very unfamiliar with Shadow and Bone, Leigh Bardugo, the author, has the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and then she has a spin-off duology called Six of Crows. And the characters do not really relate to one another, but the Netflix show actually took characters from Six of Crows and gave them prequel storylines that were interwoven with the characters in Shadow and Bone. And they actually did a really good job. I was really nervous about that, but I thought they did it fantastically, very seamless. And I loved seeing the Six of Crows characters. But now that we're moving forward, I'm not quite sure how the show is going to pull off progressing characters' plot lines. I follow a bunch of the casts on Instagram and I see them. They're just the most perfectly cast of any show I've ever watched, any adaptation I should say. The casting is perfect. I mean, it's like these characters, it's like these human beings were meant to play these characters. It's like they're real life versions. But anyway, I'm really excited for season 2. I really enjoyed what they did with season 1, so can't wait for this. The next few things I'm going to mention, these are very specific to me. They're probably not as big of fantasy sequels as a lot of the other things I've mentioned, but like I said at the beginning, I would love if more people join me on the hype train for these, so I'm going to mention them. We have Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, and very briefly, I'm going to describe it as the Russian Revolution with dragons. And I absolutely love the series. If you're a fan of political intrigue, even if you don't typically read young adult, I would still highly, highly recommend it. And the third and final book in this series comes out very soon. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's great. The Bone Starred Daughter and then its sequel, The Bone Starred Emperor. I greatly enjoyed both of them. Adult fantasy with a very cool, interesting magic system. Very mysterious, kind of almost has sci-fi elements and a little bit horror elements in this first book. Second book, I would say, is a little bit more fantasy centered, but it's a very unique story. And I think you're going to probably be kind of confused for the first 100 or so pages, but then once everything clicks into place, it is fantastic. The third book hopefully will come out this year. I know that that one has had a pushback at some point with its release date, but I think we're still going to get it this year. John Gwynne is also very popular, and the first 2 books in his Bloodsworn series are out and very loved by so many people, very highly rated. This is a Norse/Nordic inspired fantasy story, very Viking-esque. We probably won't see the third book for a while, but when that third book comes out, 1, I'll be so excited to see how all of this wraps up, and 2, I know that covers aren't everything, but these books have fantastic covers. So I can't wait to see, even just for that alone, what that third cover is going to look like. Very, very specific to me, we have Once Upon a Broken Heart. This is very different from pretty much everything else on the list. So the sequel is called A Ballad of Never After, I believe. And this is just a very, very silly, whimsical, cheeky fantasy story. And I think it's hilarious because I think that the author knows a lot of the tropes within fantasy and specifically the YA age range. And they both simultaneously use those tropes and poke fun at those tropes at the same time. I just felt like gushing and also getting a little emotional about so many of these series because I love so many of them, and I can't wait for these sequels, and I know a lot of you also can't wait for a lot of these sequels, so I just kind of wanted to gush with a bunch of you. But anyway, let me know if you can pick. I feel like I can't pick. Let me know of all of these, if you could get a sequel out of any of the ones I mentioned, whether it's video game, TV show, or book, if you could get any of these next week, which one would you pick? I don't think I'm emotionally ready for the 5th Stormlight book just yet. I think I would pick Arcane. I need Arcane right now. All of that said, I will have any relevant videos linked in the description bar as well as purchase links if you're interested in checking any of these out. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.